Well, hello there, and I bring you greetings from Bethany United Church of Christ in Claremont, North Carolina, where no matter who you are or where you are in life's journey, you are welcome here. Today, we are pondering another of Jesus' parables. This one is the parable of the wheat and the weeds. And so, as we start considering this parable, I want us to start with another question. The dandelion. Is it a weed or is it not? Some say it's a weed. Just by how it spreads, it can take over a yard pretty quickly. It can pop up very randomly. If you listen to a lot of lawn care commercials that are trying to sell products to keep weeds at bay and keep your lawn looking pristine, they are likely to say that the dandelion is a weed. In fact, I remember seeing a particular commercial when I was a kid, and I'm not sure if it still exists or not, but it was for one of these products, these weed-killing products, and as sort of the poster child for how well the product worked was the dandelion. And I remember the commercial would show a dandelion at various points of wilting. It was to show just how good this product was at taking care of weeds. So some say the dandelion falls in that category, that it is a weed. And yet, the community that I grew up in Pennsylvania, it was not uncommon to hear of people eating dandelion greens. I don't know if you've ever had them or not. I only ever remember trying them once, and honestly, I couldn't do it. They were just way too bitter for me. But the dandelion greens was something that was pretty popular. Even remember a neighbor who would make dandelion wine. And the dandelion root is considered medicinal by some. So, is it a weed? Is it not? It can be both in some ways an invasive nuisance, and yet in other ways it has benefits, nutritional, medicinal benefits for pollinators. Is it a weed or is it not? Well, to explore this further, we probably need to ask the question of, well, what makes a weed, right? I love the quote by the philosopher and poet Ralph Waldo Emerson where he says, a weed is, quote, a plant whose virtues have not yet been discovered. From that definition, we can infer that Emerson would say that a weed is a plant that doesn't have value, at least not yet, in the wider world. So it's about what a plant can offer. And if that offering is not yet seen, if that virtue is not yet experienced, it would be considered a weed. Yet a dandelion has proven value. So Emerson would likely say, no, a dandelion is no longer a weed. It may have at one point been considered a weed. Even in our lifetime, it may have been considered a weed, but the value is there. So no, it's not a weed anymore. But then, according to Merriam-Webster's online dictionary, a weed is, quote, a plant that is not valued where it is growing. So this definition suggests that inherent value and worth is not what's at question when deciding what is a weed or not. Rather, it's about not being valued in a particular location. It may have value, but it's not valued where it is planted, where it is growing. So by this definition, a dandelion could be both a weed and also not. If the purpose is to have a lawn, say that's uniform, that's green, that's of one particular type of grass, a dandelion, along with anything else, would be considered a weed. But if that's not the goal, well, then a dandelion in the yard is not necessarily a weed. It's just another flowering plant amidst the varying beauty of your lawn and garden. Yet even still, in Merriam-Webster's online dictionary, a dandelion is defined as that it's sometimes grown as a potted herb and nearly cosmopolitan as a weed. So is it a weed or not? Have I made it more clear or less clear? And I need us to run with this just a little bit longer. Let's consider Merriam-Webster's idea that a dandelion is a weed based on the desire to have it in a particular location or not. Okay, if that's the case, who gets to decide? Whose desires are we following? I've met couples that own a house together, and they have differing ideas of what they want the lawn to look like. One may want dandelions to stay around because they know it's good food for pollinators, especially in the early spring. The other may want that pristine green landscape. And so who gets to decide? And then add on top of it, don't the pollinators get a say in that debate too? The pollinators that are vital to growing our food, who use the dandelion to survive some of those early days of spring, shouldn't their desire count in the midst of it all? So, is a dandelion a weed or not? In households, in communities, as people, we cannot agree on this. We cannot agree on whether a dandelion should be in or out of the yard. We cannot agree on whether a dandelion is, quote, good or bad. Even if we as an individual might have strong feelings about it, others disagree, come at it from a different angle, have a differing opinion. And if we as a people can't agree on something so simple or so small as the dandelion, why would we ever think we have the right to decide who is in and who is out of God's kingdom? And that is, at least in part, what we see at the heart of our gospel lesson today. As Jesus again explains the kingdom from a place of a parable. This time we hear of weeds being sown among the wheat. And the workers want to make the decision. They want to go in and pull out that which they believe to be a weed and leave that which they believe to be wheat. But we're told that in this process, honestly, even if they get it all right, they're going to harm the wheat. And ultimately, in the explanation of this parable that follows a little bit later in the Gospel of Matthew, we are reminded to leave that to God for another day. In short, we are not to judge what is wheat and weeds. We are not the judge between that. We are not the judge of who is in and who is out of God's kingdom. That is not our role. That is at the heart of this parable. And while we don't know exactly what Jesus may have been responding to when this parable was first offered, it seems that there is a likelihood that people were bickering about, well, who's in and who's out? Who could be a part of the Jesus movement and who needed to be cast aside? After all, this was a wider cultural conversation as well, because, we see within the gospel text that there were a lot of people who had been cast out by religion at this time. And so that idea perhaps was infiltrating the Jesus followers. We also see that this debate of who is part of the kingdom and who is not, it continues, and we see that in Paul's writings to the early churches, right? Where they were asking, well, how can Gentiles be a part of this community? Can they? Do they have to change certain things about themselves? How do different people who have different customs, like dietary restrictions, how can they be welcomed? Should they be welcomed? Could they be welcomed? Even the question of, if someone's uncircumcised, can they be a part of this movement? And honestly, churches throughout history have fallen into the same trap. Bickering amongst themselves, deciding who is in and who is out, casting people aside, and harming one another in the process. Even not just harming those who have been cast out, but causing harm amongst those who stay. For when we focus on bickering among ourselves, when we are caught up in the fighting among our human siblings, all of whom are beloved by God, when we're caught up in that, we are distracted and we aren't focusing on the forces of evil that have us fighting amongst ourselves to begin with. And that, I think, is the true danger of it all. In the parable that Jesus offers today, the workers not once said, "Let us go after that which caused this to begin with." Yet I do believe that's where our focus needs to be. Not on judging one another, not on fighting amongst ourselves, but on fighting the evils that bring about injustice. Fighting the evils that leave people hungry, the evils that make people sick and keep people sick, the evils that say only some are worthy of getting care, the evils that say some people are of more worth than others, the evils that suppress some so that others can have a leg up, and on we could go. For if we spend all of our time as a people fighting amongst ourselves about who is a weed and who is not, who is in and who is out, we leave those forces of evil out there in the world to do just what they want to do, to be destructive, to hurt and cause harm in the world. Leave the weeds and the wheat to God. And instead, our call is to focus on simply being fruitful, to grow fruit where we are planted. After all, in this parable today, it is only by the grain that one can determine what is a wheat and what is a weed. So how will the world know that we are wheat? They'll see it when we feed people, not deciding who gets food and who doesn't, but sharing the loaves and fishes generously. And I'm not just talking about we as individuals, I'm talking about the we that is collective, as community, as a human family. They will know we are wheat when we do this. They will see it when we stand up for those who don't just look like us or sound like us or pattern their lives like we do. Not saying that any one person is of more or less value than another, but protecting the sacredness of this one human family. They will see those fruits when we stand for all people, even those who are different from us, and making sure that they have their basic human needs met. They will see it when we combat the structures and even the beliefs that propel some forward while leaving others behind, that leave some having more than they could ever need and others not having enough to get through the day. They will see our fruitfulness when we push back upon and against those evils that exist in our world. Beloved people of God, deciding between the weeds and the wheat in the metaphorical sense, that's not our work. And ultimately, it's a distraction from that which is really causing harm. Leave the weeds and the wheat to God. Our work is to strive each new day to do our very best to be a fruitful follower of Jesus, to strive with our whole hearts in such a way that our lives do not cause harm but heal, where our lives do not bind but liberate, where our lives do not perpetuate hate but sow love. May we resist the temptation to judge one another, and may we look out and at that which is causing harm in the world. May we combat that which is causing such harm. May we seek to grow in our faith and in our fruitfulness each new day. And may we leave the rest to God. So be it, and may it be so. Amen.